Hello and welcome to the Creative Business Podcast. Podcast that aims to help you build a better, more successful business. And today you can probably see something is ever so slightly different. You can actually see us. So I'm Nathan, and as always, I'm joined by Marcus.
I'm Marcus.
This is really quite surreal. Which is funny because years ago we actually started doing videos together anyway, didn't we? And we got some interviews up there and talking about proposals and getting to know your clients and everything. So yeah, it shouldn't be so weird. It just feels a little bit strange because we always just record audio only.
I know. And if you now, Nathan, let's do this. So this audio is going to go to the podcast, right? So that people can still find it.
That's a very good point, Marcus. So this will be the podcast, but this will also be available in a video format for those who prefer, our beautiful faces and get a picture, an idea for who we are. And maybe you're not about podcasts. Maybe you just prefer to have, video running in the background. So it's more of an experiment than anything.
And maybe we'll put this up on a new YouTube channel, possibly give it a name or the same with the same name. We'll see, but we'll let people know where they can find the video.
Or maybe this video will never come out and you'll just be listening to it on the podcast wondering, where's that video they were talking about?
That's right. Now, Nathan, before we start, I see your stump. I see your hand in a cast. And so,
My claw.
That is brutal, your claw. You literally have about an inch range of motion.
Yeah. I've literally got these two fingers and then this hooks around. I don't know if you can see behind me. I got my training bike there and I've literally just bought some bars, triathlon bars to go on the front now. So at least I can lean because I can't even grip onto the handlebars at the moment. So.
Oh, terrible. How long are you going to be in the cast?
I've got my first follow-up meeting next Thursday with the hospital, see how it's healing, and then I reckon 2 or 3 weeks. So it's still a good while, unfortunately. But it could be worse. It could have been the summer, and the summer in Spain with this on would not have been particularly pleasant.
No.
Okay, so how are you? You were telling me just before we went online that you had you were traveling all day yesterday for a big deal, right?
I spoke at my first, it's funny. I've done workshops. I do public workshops and we do in-house trainings, but this was my first conference I'd spoken at, and it was called the Austin, Texas CTO Summit. Great little conference, about 125 people there. Really smart CTOs. Like IBM fellows spoke, and the guy who was the VP at Amazon over Amazon Business. Really smart people. And then there was me. And so if nothing else, I provided a contrast. Maybe my goal was to help other people look smarter. But, at the end of the day, I really enjoyed it. And they were so kind and nice. I can't wait to do it again.
I'm sure it was fantastic. I'm sure it was. And for those who are listening, obviously, I said to Marcus before we came online that actually Marcus doesn't listen back to any of these podcasts. None of them.
Are we going to tell all the secrets this episode?
I listen to all of them, and sometimes more than once. First of all, I listen to them always at least once to check that there's nothing going out that we don't want to be going out. But then sometimes I'm just vain like that, and I like the sound of my own voice, and basically Marcus and myself laughing at each other's jokes.
I want to just tell you thank you for listening to them, each one of them, and making sure they're ready for the audience. I can barely read what I write, not because I can't read, but because I can't stand it. So this is an area I can use to improve. But let's move past my own problems.
Speaking of improving. So basically we had the idea this week that we in the past have spoken about topics to help you to obviously improve your business, whether that's, getting better clients, managing your clients in a way that, helps to improve your workflow, the money that you can possibly take on, so many different areas of your business. But of course, none of that can really happen until you have that business in place in the first place. So we wanted to take a step back, bearing in mind that, Marcus and I have been sort of talking for 3 years, maybe, about sort of proposals every now and again. Obviously I run Nusi, which is proposal software. And I get so many emails saying, look, it's all fine and dandy you talking about how to improve your business, but let's get that business through the door in the first place. So we're going to take a look at actually how we go about that. And there are I'm privy to so many conversations now over the last few years about, my proposal. Why isn't my proposal getting accepted? What's going wrong? Why aren't I even hearing back, from my clients? So we've taken all these common areas, shall we say, that sometimes people struggle with when it comes to the proposals, when it comes to actually closing the deal, that we are going to try and shoehorn them all into one episode. It may end up being a bit lengthy. It may not. We may have to gloss over a few items, but we'll do our very best. So basically, this is our everything you can do to give yourself the best possible chance of winning that next proposal. These are in no particular order, okay? Because there are just so many areas we could look at. And so, like I said, no particular order. What I would put as my number one is making the proposal all about you instead of about your client. I'm just looking over here now as I just move my screen. And what do I mean by making the proposal all about me is we generally tend to sell our services, sell what we do, try and push how good we are at something.
Now,
that's
Nathan,
like the...
Hold on. I'm going to interrupt
you. Go.
Because there was a slight cutout, and I want to make sure I understand what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
Are you saying that we should make our proposals all about us?
Oh, sorry. No, that we should not. A proposal should not be all about us, our business, our skills, how good we are, and what we can do.
Okay.
Because at the end of the day, what the end client is interested in is, can you help me improve my business? And I think the go-to stance, shall we say, on many agencies, on many agency websites, freelance websites, whatever kind of firm you are, is, we talk about ourselves, we talk about what we've done, we talk about what we can do and how good we are. And this client loved us, that client loved us. And, that is a very natural place to be. But it's not really the best place to begin when you're sending out a proposal. I mean, what are your thoughts on that, Mark? Because you were working, you were running your own very successful agency for years. How did that approach work out for you?
Oh, well, it's very self-serving. I mean, when all you know is design or code, you get really into it. You get good at it, right? And you compare yourself with other people. You read so many articles. You become obsessed with it. And yet, when you talk to a client, in some ways, it can be a little discouraging because you want to tell them how great the tech or how great your software process or how great your design and how modern things are, and or the new state of Facebook ads. You want to tell them about all that, hoping to build credibility and authority. I think that's why we do it. We want to show them we're the expert.
Yeah.
For us at least, what we found is our clients would look at us and go, I don't really care what tools you use. Will you be able to actually help me? Or do we have to talk a lot about you and how you feel good about your work? At the conference, somebody used this analogy. They said, a programmer, like imagine that you're in a construction business and you have to drill a hole in the wall. The programmer is obsessed with the drill. They're so excited about, this brand of drill, how many horsepower, look at my new drill, it's got no battery, it's got whatever. The designer is so excited about the hole, like, look how round it is, look what size it is, and the business and the person who owns a house just says, why do we need a hole there? What's the point of
is it going to serve? Yeah.
Right, exactly. So, I don't even think we can. I used to hear people say, sell the hole, not the drill. But I think you've got to sell the reason. And that comes back to really knowing your client.
That completely selling the reason. And actually, this was something else on my list. It was knowing the why behind the business, the why behind the proposal, the why behind the outreach, the why behind everything. Anything any client ever asks you for, there is always 5, 10, 15, 20 whys or other reasons behind that. But that's another thing. We can get to that a little bit later. So, because I think oftentimes, certainly people who are perhaps, shall we say, newer to the proposal will get that email in their inbox. They get very excited. Potential new job on the horizon, exciting new company. It looks like it's going to be awesome. They'll just rush to get something together and get it out the door. And they don't actually know anything about that business. even if they do go and check them out on Google or LinkedIn and see who they are, they don't know anything about the business. They don't really know anything about the problem. They don't really know how they can help them. So I always look at it as there is a problem, there is a solution, there is a cost associated to that solution, and there is a desired outcome from that. And how are you going to achieve those four elements, especially if you have no clue what it is that they actually want in the first place? And you've spoken about this before, is about the solution is not generally the solution, right? It's not generally, we tend to jump to what we think the solution might be.
Right. And oftentimes, again, construction, a guy with a hammer thinks everything is a nail, even a screw, which, by the way, is a really bad construction technique. And I did this too. In fact, if you're curious if you're doing this, like one way you could find out, you could read a past proposal, but you could also just look at your own website. If your website talks all about you, your tools, if it talks all about your tech, if it talks all about how beautiful your design is, if it's all about you, then maybe you generally in your business have too much of an inward focus and not enough of a problem-solving outcomes focus. I think you're right, Nathan, because I love that you kind of structured it that way. Let's walk through it again. It was problem, solution, cost
associated to that solution,
and then outcomes. And that almost, is that kind of what you would recommend as a proposal template almost? They need those four sections?
I think so, yeah. Those are definitely the areas that you need to cover within any given proposal. And some people actually, and I've had this more recently, asking cover letters with regard to proposals. And while in theory, I have nothing against a cover letter, my go-to method for a cover letter is actually to cover all of that in a proposal.
Yeah.
I'm not introducing myself. I've already established a relationship with this potential client. I don't send out proposals willy-nilly. Just I see someone online, I scrape their email and their company data and send out a proposal and, cross my fingers. I always try and establish some sort of minimal relationship, get to know as much about them as I can before anything goes out the door. What was I talking about there? I totally.
We're talking about these cover letters, but you're going to cover it in the body of the proposal.
Exactly. And so all of that, who I am, you already know, hopefully, how I can help you, hopefully we've already discussed, but I'm certainly going to put that forward in the proposal as well. The associated costs to that and everything that I, or rather other people would include in the cover letter for me is, presented in a proposal format. So it kind of seems irrelevant, at least to me anyway. So
it's interesting. I'm curious on this. Do you respond? Well, so when you had your company, did you ever get cold RFPs? I don't know if that happens in Europe, but and
we still get them now all the time, even for Nusi now.
You have no relationship, right? You just
I can give you the exact format now for 99.99999 recurring % of those that come through. Hi there, no name.
That's a key. That's it.
Hi there, or hello, and whatever insert the business name is never, it's always a software development company, always. I can help you expand your business in this area. And then they would list all the technical areas and software languages they are skilled in, and then say, if you need any help with any future projects, reach out to us. So not a proposal, but certainly an outreach email with the hope that we will come on board with that. And it's the same thing for me. It's, how are you ever going to sort of wheel me in just listing out your skills? And no.
Here in the States, the RFP actually represents the inverse of that. It's kind of interesting. Yeah. And I was curious, have you ever gotten like a big client, a big enterprise, important fancy people will put together a 400-page document, or maybe it's just like a 60-page, and they'll send it out, they'll blast it out to 20 vendors.
Only 60 pages.
Yeah. And, or maybe it's 2 pages, and it will be like, we want a website. Please give us your bid, right? Or we want a new logo. I never respond. I used to respond to RFPs, but within about 2 years, I stopped because of the same exact thing you said. There's no relationship. There's no getting to know anybody. And they just want to evaluate on price. So for me, we found responding and spending a lot of time on RFPs were a waste of time. But I want to ask you, you're an expert on proposals, Nathan, so I'm just going to swing this right back around. Let's talk about that problem. Maybe the proposal should talk about the problem. What's important about the problem section of a proposal? Kind of what are the key elements of it, do you think?
Well, usually the problem that your client comes to you for in the first place, it's very rare that ends up being the actual problem. So to get there,
very true.
So to get there, you need to spend. This is why you can't just send out proposals. To get there, well, you can, and you might even get the job, but you won't solve the problem, and which means you'll never get work from them again.
You might solve your problem, which is to get work, but you probably won't solve their problem.
If you be a recognized firm, company, designer, agency that is constantly getting referrals and repeat work, then it's essential. So you need to be talking to this customer to actually get to the root of the problem, because like I said, they might come to you saying that we need a website redesign because it hasn't been updated for the past 5 years. And for many people, that might be a good enough reason for them to begin a project. Say, fine, no problem, I can create a proposal for you. It's going to cost you X amount of dollars. And that's fine. But of course, there'll be many more reasons behind why they actually need a new website. And those could be anything. It could be, the boss's wife turned around and made a snide remark about, wow, that website looks really cheesy now. When was that built? It could be something as simple as that. It could be that signups are dropping off because maybe they're using an outdated modal pop-up that simply isn't working on the majority of browsers anymore. And nobody has actually even realized that. There could be a multitude of reasons, which is why it's so important to interview your clients. We call them client interviews. We've written about this a lot. We've even got a book on it, and client interviews. The questions you should be asking to be able to get enough information to actually know what the real problem is. Because before you actually find out what the real problem is, you can't begin to offer any real solutions other than designing a website that looks great. Anyone can design a website that looks great, but if it doesn't solve the problem, the real problem, then it's nothing. It's you get paid, the website that looks great, and you're the only one who's happy.
Yeah, I think that's great. So when you have these client interviews, I think that's a great term. And if you're listening and you haven't picked up the book, it's available at Newsy. Is that right? Or where would you find it?
Newsy.com. And actually, if you just scroll down to the footer area, there's a section down there, resources, and it's called Surviving Client Interviews. And basically, we'll just give you all the questions and all the sort of methods and techniques that you can use to get the most information and to build a relationship as well with clients before you even step into a proposal, which is paramount.
And so you're really talking, I feel like, about two sections: the problem, and then also an outcome, right? Mm-hmm. Because the problem might be our website sucks. But the real outcome is I want to get my wife off my back. I want to get more signups. My business partner told me we have a new competitor, right? And their website looks better. And so we have fear that we're going to fall behind. Whatever it is, the outcome section, that can be really hard to predict though, right? Or to state. And I see a lot of people hesitant to talk about outcomes. Tell us about what should be in the outcome section and how confident should we be that we can achieve these outcomes?
Well, you cannot approach the outcome section until you have this information, because like you said, so I need a website designed. For example, it's because trial signups have dropped over the last 12 months and we're now about to go bust. So until you actually look into that and see, well, okay, so trial signups have dropped. There are many ways you could increase trial signups, and that doesn't necessarily mean redesigning your website. Mm-hmm. It could be as simple as fixing that bug that you have across all of your IE browsers, which account for 60% of your known customers because they are in information technology. They work in a certain section like education, perhaps, and they all generally tend to use Windows and older versions of IE.
Maybe
There's
it
so much
doesn't work on mobile, right?
exactly. There is so much stuff you need to know before you can even begin to think about the outcomes. And if you really want to be successful and nail my closing rate on proposals before I stopped being a freelancer was 90%. Like, that's not because I'm a really clever guy, and that's not because I'm a wordsmith, and it's not because I'm a kick-ass designer. It's because I worked behind the scenes before I even got to the proposal. And some people say, "Oh, well, I don't have that time. I can't invest that time up front to win lots of business." When you put it like that, it sounds absurd. How can you not? How can
I
you
don't
not?
have time to be successful. I only have time to fail.
Exactly. It's there are two things in life, and not everyone can afford to be cheap. So invest a little up front to get a lot back. That's the way I look at it. For me, there's no other option. I understand that there are businesses out there that literally just do throw proposals out the door as soon as the lead comes in. They will take a template. Sure, at Nusi we provide templates, but I would always encourage you to really make that proposal as personal as possible, because the customer is going to know that. They're going to know if you've researched their business. They're going to know if they've spoken to starters. That's a pretty good indicator. So, yeah.
No, I think that's great. And first of all, that's a wonderful close rate. But I really like what you said. You don't attribute it to, because I used to get so caught up in the magic words or the perfect design. In fact, this is embarrassing to say, but sometimes we would meet a client, and if my designer, who was also my business partner, was really excited about it. One time it was electric motorcycles, and he was a motorbike guy. He went out and spent 2 days doing a whole photo shoot of his bike, himself on a bike, other people on bike. Like, he did a custom photo shoot. He put together this intricate book. The proposal was like a book with aspirational, beautiful images. It was amazing. Ask me if they even returned the email. No, they literally did not even write us back and say thanks, but no thanks. I got to be honest, he was crushed. And then
I bet he was.
And then that actually turned into resentment and anger. Like, who are those jerks to throw away and discount all of our hard work, blah, blah, blah.
But why do you think they discounted all that hard work, considering that you essentially sent off a catalog style proposal that could have been, designed by? Why do you think that was discounted? Why?
Well, I don't know exactly, because they gave us no feedback. But
nothing came back.
Nothing. What I do know is that beautiful custom photography, a fantastic layout, a tremendous amount of visual design did not work. And having the copywriter agonize over the perfect aspirational phrasing for a whole week did not work. So it must have been something else that was missing. Maybe we didn't connect on what their purpose was. Maybe our price was way out of their budget because we'd never checked. Something else.
You didn't ask for a budget.
Okay, I didn't say I was good.
Let's get on this. Let's jump this. This is on my list. Right. Never, ever send a proposal if you don't have the client's budget.
But hold it, Nathan. Clients don't want to tell you. Like, if you ever go buy a car and the car salesman says, "Well, how much money you got today?" You're going to say, "No, you show me the cars."
That's true. But I would never.
But we can get around that, right? Because how do we get that budget? What words do we use?
Well, let's go back to the car sales analogy. People do tend to think of us as car salesmen anyway. So
do.
We got a pretty bad reputation. If you are presenting those cars and you're showing the highly expensive SUV, which is sort of $80,000 or whatever the case might be, or in my case euros, and then you jump down to the small compact and say no at either end. You say, well, what are you looking to use this car for? Is it going to be for family holidays? Is it going to be for hunting on the weekends? If you hunt, I don't know why I said that. I have no idea. Is it going to be for, there are so many things you could use it for.
Yeah.
And around that form and function is going to give you a price bracket. It's inevitable. And so you can move forward from there. No, nobody likes giving their budget. But if you want to run a serious business, and if you don't want to be spending 3 or 4 days investigating a potential client, writing a proposal, sending it off, and then finding out you were way off target. And then in fact, actual fact, it was never even an option. Why would you want to do that? No. Get the uncomfortable question out of the way. Maybe it doesn't have to be on the first conversation you have with them. Maybe not even on the second. But asking what kind of budget they have set aside for this project or for this type of project, whether it's their marketing for the year, whether it's for,
Yeah.
whatever that might be, is essential for you being able to move forward. Sorry, go on.
No, I completely agree. In fact, I've done this trick that you just mentioned, and that is stop thinking about it like it's a personal budget and ask, how much is your marketing, what is your digital marketing budget for 2018? Or you might even ask, how much did you spend on your last website? For example, when I go buy a car, it seems like the car salesman always asks me, well, what are you driving these days? That's a way to find out how much people spend and have spent on the past, right? If I come in and I say, like one time I had an Audi Q7. What a beautiful car. I just want to say, I love that car.
That's
but
a big car.
if I told the car salesman that, he would immediately BMWs, right? But you can ask, what is your budget range? How much do you have budgeted for this initiative? As well as the other side of the ROI equation, how much is this going to make you? What would doubling your sign-up rate mean for your business, right? Because the other side of investment is return. And too often we sort of ignore that. But if you know the return is $100,000 a year, spending $10,000 to get that, that's a very minimal investment.
Exactly. And I think, again, that's so closely tied with the client interviews or customer research or however you want to term it, knowing that if you can, if increasing trial signups is the issue, if you can increase it by 15% over the next 6 months, then that will make them X dollars. You can tie that so closely with how much value you're going to provide, and therefore in the budgetary demands and your needs from that. I think, so often, obviously, people are uncomfortable. Not everyone. In fact, I've spoken to many clients who've said, yeah, I can spend, around, and that's fine. I always appreciate those clients. But sometimes they will push back and they say, well, I don't know. My go-to sort of way of phrasing it was always, is it between? And I'd say, are you looking to spend between 5 and 10,000, 10 and 20,000, 20 to 30 or above? And I found that people tend to be far more comfortable in giving a range than giving a precise number. Because I think, we're always scared that people are going to max out any budget we give. And even if we give a range, of course, we can still do that, but it's more comfortable for them. Right. I think, to be able to say, because sometimes, and this sounds bizarre, that they almost might feel inadequate. That they say, "Oh, well, I've only got 5,000 or 10,000 to spend," or
Well, and I think the other thing is you really hit on it there with the idea that comfortability. They are taking a risk. Everybody knows in negotiation it's foolish to tell someone how much money you have, right? So it is the beginning of an honest relationship to take a small risk. Now, another thing that we used to do is, for example, sometimes I would go first when it came to money. I would say, I have to be honest, our minimum project size for a marketing website is $30,000. And the minimum size for a mobile app price-wise is $50,000. And I'm telling you that so that we can start to have honest conversations so that we understand if this is a good fit to work together. How much did you have budgeted? So that was one approach, is to know your own minimums and to be the first one to talk about money as sort of putting in there the baseline. Now, if you have a client that's used to spending $1 million on a website, that hearing that your minimums are so much lower than what they were going to spend might position you like the Kia, not the Mercedes. But if you're really struggling to get any sense of budget, at least know your own minimums. I think that's important.
Yeah. So budget for me is a big no-no. If you don't know the budget, don't even bother sending the proposal. tied to that, I keep getting a message saying my internet connection is unstable.
Mine too.
I hope it's okay. So,
Me too.
but something very closely connected to that, and something that I never used to do in the old days. I used to send out my proposals like they were quotes. You know, I would list my services, associated costs, and I would just hope for the best. Like a Chinese menu. You know, just work your way down. Don't want this. Don't need the UX. Don't need the research and development. I'll just have the final design and three versions of that will cost me $10,000. That was a terrible way of doing things. We can go into that at another point, or you can read any one of our numerous blog posts on that. I came to realize over the years that term price packaging, you know, giving your customers options by saying, you know, I can give you all of this for a price, which would include everything you need to make, you know, to move your business forward with everything we spoke about. I can give you another package which involves everything from that previous one, but with some incredibly valuable add-ons, in fact, that may have been mentioned, I may have through conversations we had that it occurred to me that if we did this as well, we could actually increase your ROI even further. And then perhaps a third one would involve all that. Would just go out and out and do everything. We'd even make their tea for them in the morning. And of course, all of these would be increasing in price, and they could select one or the other. But to take that back to the budget question, the reason why it's imperative that you know that is that first option, the cheapest or most economical option, would always fall within their budgetary needs. So if their budget was 20 grand, that first solution, which would get everything done they needed to be done, would fall within that budget. Then those further pricing options more than likely would fall outside of that, but it would generate more value. It would give them a higher return on investment. And maybe if you've never done this before, you think, well, why would I do that? They've already given me the budget. Oftentimes, it doesn't occur to a client other areas where they can improve their business based on those conversations they've had with you, the expert, the person who knows all about how to improve their business through one skill or another. And to be honest, nearly every time I use pricing packaging, they have never gone for the cheapest package because they've seen the value.
Do they go to the middle a lot? I've heard that the pricing psychology, the middle is the most popular one. Have you found that?
For me, it was true. That they generally tend to go to the middle. And I don't know if that is purely, you know, I've seen the reports and the studies, and you see it on pricing pages, you know, with SaaS and everything you could ever imagine, that they say, yes, you know, it leans towards the middle and blah, blah, blah. For me, it was true, but it definitely works. And it's definitely something I would recommend. If you're only listing your prices out as a list of services with an associated cost, stop it.
No, I agree. You know, in fact, I've actually talked to clients who have said, not my clients, but as I'm talking with business owners and they want to raise their prices, one thing that I've suggested they do is they put in a much larger ceiling, like your I'll make your tea in the morning price gets much higher, and everything else can move up a little bit when it comes to packaging. But again, it's kind of to apply pressure to that middle. I don't want to live in a trailer, but I also can't live in a mansion. So I'll take a regular house with a few upgrades. And I think that idea of packaging. Now, at the end of the day, of course, you have to make sure you can deliver what you're promising for the amount of money that they have, or you have to be direct and honest enough to say, I just don't think in your budget I can help you. If that's the case, I feel like you have an ethical obligation not to try, not to hope, and also not to give away the farm, right? Not to make your business less profitable.
For sure.
But simply to say, I don't think we can come to a point where we both are benefiting and excited about this. And you need an outcome, and so do I. And so if that's not going to work, like, don't even send the proposal. What do you do if you're not going to send a proposal, Nathan? Do you have any ideas there?
How do you mean if you're not? If the budget simply isn't up to your needs?
Right.
I would, if I'd invested minimal time with the client, like I literally found out in the first meeting that their budgets weren't going to match mine, then I would just say, you know, I'm sorry, but I don't know X, you know, this wouldn't fall within, you know, the project needs. And I would probably try and pass them on Generally we know people
Right.
who work in varying price points within an industry. So usually I would write an email afterwards saying, sorry that, it wouldn't work, it couldn't work out, but, here's a personal recommendation. And I would always try them pass them along if
Yeah,
I could.
I used to cultivate a network of companies that were smaller or individuals that were freelance who were just starting, who were cheaper, because I felt if I couldn't help them with delivering a solution, maybe I can actually be helpful by referring them to someone who they can trust, rather than just them going back to looking in Google again and trying to figure out. And by the way, just like you said, just like car salesmen, you're probably working against a bad reputation. Freelancers, web developers, we do not have a great reputation for service, consistency, and providing value. We do have a reputation for taking people's money and then disappearing in their mind. So make sure you don't do that.
I think, yeah. And again, to really nail it, sort of, it's why that initial sort of client relationship is so important, because if you can establish some kind of relationship, you won't just be another name or another logo hitting their inbox. They'll be expecting your proposal, instead of just being the traditional 20 RFP, 20 sales proposals hitting their inbox from, maybe they put an announcement up on one of these dribble job boards, or, whatever the case might be. They could be inundated. And usually, see, this is even us having a bad name can actually work to the benefit of people who take their business seriously, because the bar has been set incredibly low. You only have to step up just that little bit
That's
to really get noticed.
Yeah, exactly. In fact, okay, so I'm going to tell, and maybe as we kind of wrap up here on this episode, I want to tell this final story. For the last 15 years, I have bought, maybe longer, I have bought every car from the same individual, from the same car salesman. And it was because I found a car salesman who started, just like Nathan said, with asking, well, what are you going to do with this car? And how many kids do you have? Any big changes coming up in life? You're going to get grandkids. You have any kids leaving? Because people keep cars 5 to 7 years, right? And he just got to know us in even a really basic way. And then he was very knowledgeable about the product, which later I talked to him and I said, why are you such a good salesman? He's like, because I try and fit the person to the vehicle. And if it's not a good fit, because I don't actually come down on price. I might come down a couple of $100, but the reality is for the right person, a brand new Honda is a wonderful value. And so my goal is to find the right people and then to help the other people. He says, I'll refer him to other salesmen I know who are good that work at used car lots if a used car is a better fit for them. And what happens is when they're in the market for a new car, they come back and they say, oh, Marcus, or the guy's name is David. He's, we've been saving up our pennies. We want to buy a new car and we want to buy it from you because we so trust you, even in our brief interactions. Hard to imagine, but this guy, and I feel really good every time I talk to him because he has talked us out of bigger purchases into the kind of purchase that he felt and we agreed would be a really good fit for our family.
That's awesome. I like that a lot.
So you're right. The bar is low. You find a good one, you stick with it, right?
The bar is very low and it's not easy to jump above that. So show interest, learn as much as you can about the client before you even put pen to paper. Do not send a proposal just willy-nilly. Get that budget, find out the real problem behind the problem, behind the problem, behind the problem. And then you can begin to think about outcomes, solutions, and how you can help move that business forward. Oh, and offer price options. Don't just list out that price and hope for the best, because all this then is just a list of technical capabilities and products, and nobody wants that. If I want that, I'll go and eat at a restaurant, So don't do that.
Yep. I think we've got a lot more to talk about on this topic. What do you say we pick up again next week and we kind of elaborate? Because I think there's still other sections of the proposal that we need to cover.
Boy, yeah, there is so much stuff you could cover here. So much stuff. Let's do that. Yeah. So we'll call it a day now, and then we'll come back next week and pick it up again.
All right. Well, great. Thanks for joining us today. Nathan, where can people find us?
Well, if you're listening to the podcast, probably the best place is if you want to. Here's an idea. Lately, we've been getting more and more listener questions, listener emails, and we're going to begin to work our way through those over the coming weeks as well. And so if there's something you would like to discuss, we got a few more this week as well, so we're going to start queuing them up. If there's something you'd like us to discuss or talk about on the show, then drop a line to podcast@thecreativebusinesspodcast.com, or you can either contact Marcus directly on marcusblankenship.com, or you can find me on nusi.com. And anything you'd like to discuss about, then we'd be only too happy to hear. Have to think about what we're going to do now with the videos, with creating a channel, what we're going to do with them. But for now, if you listen to the podcast, that's good enough. We'll let you know about the videos.
Sounds great. Thank you. Have a wonderful day.
Have a great weekend, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.